The town of Ithaca is a mosaic of rural, suburban, and urban landscapes that surrounds the city of Ithaca. It's a college town, a farm town, a Finger Lakes community, and a tourist destination renowned for its scenic vistas, forested hillsides, gorges, waterfalls, and Cayuga Lake. That text comes from the Town of Ithaca's new comprehensive plan that maps out just how Ithaca and all its facets might change in the future. And here to talk about that new comprehensive plan is Senior Planner for the Town of Ithaca, Dan Tasman. Dan, thanks for stopping by.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So just to get us started, we've talked about planning a good bit here on WRFI Community Radio News, but I'm wondering if we can just start with your take on what a comprehensive plan actually is.
Okay. Well, I mean, there's other people's takes as well, but a comprehensive plan, or at least the Town of Ithaca's comprehensive plan, really should be seen as the collective vision of the community for the town's future, especially it's built in its natural environment. Where do they see Ithaca going? Where do they want it to be? What do they see as its ideal? So it's a roadmap to the future.
And what does this kind of document actually do for a town? Does it say enable them to do things or keep them from doing certain things?
Well, it gives them the justification to go and enact certain policies. For instance, when it comes to zoning or agricultural preservation or any kind of sustainability policies, anything like that, the justification is going for that. Those policies are going to be in the comprehensive plan.
And if we think a little bit about the history of the Town of Ithaca's comprehensive plan, when did the town first decide that such a plan was important and necessary?
Well, history of planning in the Town of Ithaca goes back to the 1950s. There were regional comprehensive plans that covered the city of Ithaca, the town of Ithaca, the surrounding countryside, but it wasn't until 1993 that the town adopted its first comprehensive plan for just the area inside the town limits. That plan has been in effect up until Monday. And in 2008, it was decided to revisit that plan and start work on a new comprehensive plan.
And I'm interested in that decision that you just mentioned in 2008. Was there one thing or maybe a series of events that caused the town of Ithaca to say, okay, well, this plan from 1993 isn't going to cut it anymore?
No, there's a lot of things, really. First off, it's good planning practice that you want to go and revisit your comprehensive plan every 10, 15, 20 years or so. Conditions do change. And in the town of Ithaca and really the country as a whole, a lot has changed. In 1993, you think about it, Bill Clinton was president. So the word sustainability wasn't in most people's vocabulary. Concepts such as new urbanism were just getting started, and most people haven't heard of that. The idea of what the American dream was in 1993 was quite different. It was living in a single-family house out in the suburbs. A lot of that has changed. How people see the environment, there's been a lot of societal changes, there's been a lot of economic changes that have taken place since then. And Ithaca is a growing area. The town's population continues to grow as well as the town surrounding it. So there's this growing disconnect between what the 1993 plan had as the vision for the town and the new economic reality, the new social reality of the 2000s, or at least the post-Great Reset era.
Mm-hmm. And just to maybe get some context, how would you maybe summarize what the vision of that 1993 plan was?
The 1993 plan really did place, it was a product of its time, and it placed a great emphasis on preservation of open space, preservation of working lands, natural lands, in a sense trying to maintain though it wasn't called a green belt, trying to maintain the green open lands that surround essentially, the city of Ithaca and the inner parts of the town of Ithaca. There was concern back then about suburban sprawl, of encroaching development into agricultural areas, into natural areas, and these are the vision of the 1993 plan was to focus on preserving those open lands, those natural features that basically make the town what it is, that draw so many people to the region. One thing with the current plan, the new 2014 plan, is that it places equal emphasis on human habitat as well as natural habitat. There's what's the quality of the neighborhoods, where people live, where they work, where they play, putting a little bit more emphasis on that. The 2014 plan builds off of the 1993 plan. So the ideals of that plan as far as preserving the natural landscape, working lands, and so on, that has not been abandoned. It's just been supplemented.
So 2008 happens, and the town starts the process of re-envisioning their comprehensive plan. What does that process kind of look like? Can you take us through some of those steps?
I'm making the sausage.
Yeah.
I didn't come on board until January 2011, so I wasn't privy to those early meetings that took place, but there was a comprehensive plan committee that got together. There were various neighborhood meetings where people got together, the stakeholders, that is town residents, business people, elected officials, appointed board members. They would meet to talk about what their vision was for the town, what was good, what was bad, often what's called a SWOT, S-W-O-T, or strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. And with all of that, at these comprehensive plan committee meetings, which consisted of town board members, there were folks from the city of Ithaca that were on the committee, Cayuga Heights, get together to try to get the input from those various meetings and convert that into some kind of collective vision for the town's future.
Mm-hmm. Thinking about the process and the voices being considered, who are the real stakeholders in a plan like this? I know we have the citizens of the town of Ithaca, there's the town of Ithaca itself, but are there any other parties that really have a stake in what this comprehensive plan says?
Absolutely. It's not just residents, there's current residents, there's future residents. We have to think about people that don't live here, that are moving to Ithaca in the future. There's the institutions, Cornell University, Ithaca College, Cayuga Medical Center. We have to think about, in a way, stakeholder being the landscape itself, because the land doesn't necessarily have a voice of its own. So the plan has to speak for that.
Mm-hmm. And considering that there were all these stakes in this plan that had to be considered, since you came on it in 2011, were there any parts of the plan that you recall people being exceptionally passionate about?
We Ithacans are very passionate people. It's a good word for it. I can't really say that there's one part of the plan that people were especially passionate about in any way. If you ask 10 different people who took part in the planning process, what is the most important issue to you, you're going to have 10 different answers. If there's any one area as opposed to a section, probably comes down to the issue of how growth is framed. And traditionally in the region, growth has been framed in context of either no growth versus pro-growth. And it's trying to strike a balance between the two. That is very much a challenge.
So maybe if we move from passion to disagreement, were there any points that were just really difficult for the planning board to kind of come to an agreement about?
Many areas. Again, Ithacans are very passionate. We have different ideals and different ideas about what we want to see out of the plan. And I don't think everybody got what they were looking for, 100% of what they were looking for. So there was a lot of spirited discussion and debate throughout the comprehensive plan process, not just among the comprehensive plan committee members, town board, even among planning staff.
And if we think about the fact that this document, which you have here in the studio with us, this has been completed. In the end, how did things shake out? If we think about maybe some of the focus areas of this plan, were there any ones that you were particularly pleased with, or that the town board as a whole was particularly pleased with how things kind of came out?
I'd say one of the major areas that we're particularly pleased with is a new focus on what's called traditional neighborhood development. The 1993 plan, that plan's vision for the areas, what we call the building envelope, or the area that's very close to the city of Ithaca, areas that are slated for development that of a density that requires sewer and water. The previous plan had a suburban vision for those areas. The new plan in some areas still maintains that suburban vision, but in other areas looking at more mixed-use communities, as actually having walkable main streets, a variety of housing, different housing prices, different housing ranges, so somebody can live their entire life in a community. Parks that are very accessible, that aren't necessarily tucked away, hidden, and so on. Looking at that, kind of these more integrated types of communities as opposed to strict separation of uses. That is, residential goes over here, commercial goes over here, apartments go over here, and never shall any of them meet.
And that I know is just, it's kind of a hot topic in the town of Ithaca, right? So we can think of the proposed Chainworks district for the Emerson Power Factory on South Hill. So thinking about the fact that the comprehensive plan isn't made in a bubble, right? There are these issues that are currently being discussed in the city and in the town. How does this long-term plan kind of bear on these discussions that we're having and community members are having in the present?
Well, regarding Chainworks, one of the land use categories are what we call character districts in the comprehensive plan. We call it an area of special concern, and it's for the Emerson facility because it didn't quite fit in neatly into some of these other areas. And that you do have to take a special approach when it comes to that site because it is much different than anything else in the town. It's a large industrial facility, something of the likes that you would see in a major city in upstate New York. So the plan envisions that area as mixed-use development, live, work, manufacturing, residences, little bit of retail, and Chainworks seems to be, at least the current proposals for Chainworks meet at least I believe they meet the spirit and intent of the comprehensive plan for that area.
Mm-hmm. And I'm also thinking about some of the issues that have come up with developments on West Hill as well. So I guess the more pointed question is, I mean, if there's a certain segment of the community that is, say, really for or really against a proposal, which is, happening in the future, where does kind of the comprehensive plan come in and comment on whether something like that is even allowed? Like, does the comprehensive planning committee keep those kind of active concerns in mind as they're projecting towards the future?
Yes, they are. One thing about the comprehensive plan is that it's a plan for the entire town. So it's not necessarily a plan specifically for one neighborhood or another. I can't really speak on any current proposals that are taking place on West Hill or any of the controversies that are taking place over there. But the comprehensive plan does have a vision for how the West Hill area, or really the South Hill area, East Hill area, should be developed. And that's basically all I can say about that right now.
I completely understand. And so thinking about the fact that the plan has been passed, what comes next?
What comes next is zoning, implementation. And there's a lot more than just zoning, but zoning is the big task to go ahead. Having a new zoning code that allows these new development patterns to actually take place, that will actually shape these new neighborhoods. And a good way to think of a zoning code is it's like a recipe for fulfilling or creating the vision that the comprehensive plan enables. If you follow that recipe that's in the zoning code, then you'll end up with the results that the plan envisioned.
And where could people, say, find out more information about the plan if they wanted to read this thing from cover to cover?
They could check out the town's website, and we do have a long URL, so it's www.town.ithaca.ny.us/town-plan. But if you Google it, if you Google Town of Ithaca Comprehensive Plan, it should take you right there.
Full disclosure, folks, I just Googled it and it did take me right there. Well, I think that's going to do it for time. And I have been speaking with Senior Planner for the Town of Ithaca, Dan Tasman, about the town's new comprehensive plan that was passed earlier this week. Again, you can find the full text of the plan at the town's website. That's www.town.ithaca.ny.us, or you can just Google it. Dan, thank you so much for stopping by.
Hey, thank you.